Okay, Avraham, what I would like to start with is for you to tell us what were some of the private ways that people defied the Nazi regulations and the Nazi laws in the ghetto.
Well, we usually read and hear about the heroic uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto, of the Lodz Ghetto, and so on. Also in Kovno, the escape from the Ninth Fortress, the legendary escape from the Ninth Fortress that we'll read later, back it down. So but the main, I always am trying to stress, and this is what I've done in my diary, I think, to stress the fight of the each individual, of the inmate, the plain man or woman in the ghetto, even the boy, child, for survival of one day, sometimes survival of another hour, in the hope that something might happen.
And what did they do when you say
So,
they fought?
first of all, the rations that the Germans gave to feed the inmates was a ration for starvation. No one could live on 100 grams. But also these 100 grams of bread, the inmates didn't, the individual inmate didn't get, because we had kept secret 2,000 soils in the ghetto. Babies that had been born despite the strict order to cut off pregnancy. Second, there were old men or sick men that if we would put them on the register of the inmates of the ghetto, they would have been killed. So these 2,000, approximately 2,000, had to get food. So we cut off from the general portion that we got, so everyone got only approximately 80 grams or 85 grams of bread, so that the others can get also. So each one in his own way tried to get additional food. You couldn't go in the supermarket and buy it. You couldn't go in because in the ghetto there was not. So people used to go to walk outside town, and there try to get out for 10 or 15 minutes and buy, not buy, because nobody sold, it's wartime, and it were restrictions also in the city. But the Lithuanians had enough food, but they wanted always to trade in. They would give you a loaf of bread or half a loaf of bread for a pair of trousers or stockings or a jacket or whatever. For instance, I remember it was the 31st of December 1942. My present wife had already sold out everything she got. But well, there was left a gun, for the ball, for very big festivities. She was a very rich woman. So, but nobody bought a gown in time of war. So we had in the opera house in Kovno, there were a group of Jewish workers who worked there in the opera house as dressmakers, as to make the haircuts and parlor. They were also working in cleaning the opera house. So I took Pnina and went as workers in that brigade, and she took along with her the gown. It was a wonderful gown, and with accordingly also a pair of shoes, elegant. And there on the 31st, on the eve of the New Year, the actresses there just jumped on this merchandise, you see, and so she got some bread and a little bit of sugar, you see, for the gown, which costed hundreds and hundreds. Just is one of the examples of one fought for the surviving of another day. More so when she had a small child and she badly needed milk that you couldn't get in the ghetto, leave alone an egg, you see. So this was an opportunity for her to bring milk. And then, when she got it all, and she got rid of her gown and this, it was a problem how to pass the control at the ghetto gate. When at the ghetto gate, there were always sentries of the ghetto commandant, the German ghetto commandant, and also Lithuanians. On one side, from inside, there were the employees of the Jewish labor exchange who used to arrange the exit of the laborers in the groups from the ghetto out to outside to the places of work. And they were at the ways and means to bribe a certain sentry or a Lithuanian or a German, and so they keep close an eye and they pass by. Take part of it, give them as bribe, you see. But nevertheless, something left. And in this way, people tried not to starve, just plainly, very plain words, not to starve. And some others used to make this deal of trade-in above or through the ghetto fence. There was a barbed wire fence 2 meters high. The Lithuanians knew that there is a shortage of food inside the ghetto. So they used to come and from a distance show a loaf of bread, or so sugar, or so 5 eggs, you see. And from inside the ghetto, they used to show a pair of trousers, or a jacket, or something like that. And when they, with a nod of the head, they came to agreement on a trade-in. So when along the barbed wire, always 24 hours a day, the center used to go back and forth. So the moment when the center used to go, let's say, to the left, they used to throw above the fence to the Lithuanians, and they used to throw above the food. And we used to call it descent, a descent. You know what is a descent in the war? A descent. And was the descent merchandise.
Avram, tell me, you mentioned the opera house. Is that where the orchestra in the ghetto played, or
no,
tell me about the orchestra?
In Kovno, they had a wonderful opera house. It was in the center of the city, and they had excellent Lithuanian singers. Also, one Jew was a Jew. One of the main singers was a Jew. But the orchestra, the musicians, mostly were Jews. And part of them, those who were not killed before entering the ghetto, they were in the ghetto. First-class musicians. For instance, the soloist of the musicians, yes, he was in the ghetto. A soloist, violinist, and several others. The doorman at the Jewish committee offices were a first-class pianist. We didn't send them to work because we wanted to save their hands, their fingers, you see. But he was a doorman and was very happy to be a doorman, you understand? Others were policemen, you see. They were such policemen like you were, but this was the way to keep their fingers, you know, that not to be entirely. And in addition, they were certainly not used to hard labor, you see. And so I can switch over. When I told you about the descent, I want to finish with regard to to the fight about and then small children were in danger of being killed in the first place because they don't. So what did we do? We arranged a so-called vegetable garden guard of young children of the age of 8 to 12. From the age of 12 they could already get work and be laborers and had a card, a labor card, which was absolutely vital in the ghetto. But what would we do with the children from 8 to 12? So we organized this. They were a group that was called Eshel, Irgun Shmira Leginot, the guards of the gardens. We had only vegetable gardens. And there were approximately above 100. And yet they had a uniform, you see, and they had an armband, and so this way we could. And these youngsters also wanted to eat. So they used to try, you see, first of all, when they were in the gardens, and the gardens were along the ghetto fence. So they also sometimes, being small children, they used to squeeze through raise a fence. One keeps the fence, two keep the fence for both sides. He is a small child, so he came through, dig a little bit in the earth, you see, and he went out and scrapes in some bread or something, and he makes in the ghetto, you see. So even small children were conscious of the danger of starvation, and they have knowingly went into danger of life in order to get some food.
How about the kids that were under 8 and 12, the children? What did they do during the day? You know, the 6-year-olds or 5-year-olds or.
Oh yes, well, you see, so fortunately, unfortunately, from the beginning we were not conscious of the great danger of these children, because we never thought that they can take children and kill them. But when the action of the 4th of October 1941, when they put on fire the contagious hospital in the small ghetto, with the patient inside, with the doctors, and with the personnel, medical personnel, all of them, they were put on fire. And but before they put on fire this building, the adjacent building was a children's home, an orphan's home, and there were approximately 500-600 children. So they took them out from the building and they brought them in the courtyard of the contagious diseases hospital, and they were just plain put them. I can never forget the picture. There were small children and babies, just babies in the orphan home. So the Germans, when they put them on the ground, and they just kicked them from one side to the other side with their boots, the Gestapo men. People like beasts. They behaved just like beasts. They used to kick them. Then the children laid, for instance, with their faces up to heaven. Yes, so they kicked them to turn down, and then again. This was a just terrible sight to see it. And then they took them from that courtyard straight to the nice fortress, and they killed them in the very same day, together with another 1,000 inmates of the small ghetto, after they put on fire the hospital. They did not let our firemen, we had a fire brigade in the ghetto, excellent firemen, we were trained for years. and they were ready but they didn't let them come near to the place. You see, there were Lithuanian fire brigades who came close to the ghetto fence, but they came just to safeguard that the fire shouldn't come over to the other side of the fence. You understand? And this is so. You see, they were just not to fight the fire, but to see that the fire shouldn't go to the other side. And this was one of the most tragic days. And what it is worthwhile mentioning, in that very contagious diseases hospital, you see, we didn't have so much space at so many hospitals. So part of this contagious diseases hospital served as a maternity, where women gave birth to children. This, of course, was absolutely against, contra to the restrictions of pregnancy and so on. So when they took out they took out from their beds many sick people, and they brought them in one place where they could be buried for sure. They should remain. Sometimes it doesn't reach this. There was left some part of the building left after the burning. So in one, they left. They just passed by one room where two women were laying after giving birth to the child, to the babies, and the two babies were on, on the window. There is at the window there is such a, like, let's say, this is the window, and here is such a small wooden.
Like a ledge.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So these two were the two children. So when they came in to control if somebody was left in the room, so they saw the two women, and they were about to take them out, but then one of them saw the children. So he came near to the babies, and they looked at them, and they looked at them, and all of a sudden some human feeling came perhaps in his heart, you see. So he said to the other one, "What do you think? Shall we leave these two babies?" You see, and in silence they went out and they left the two women with the two children. I am telling this to stress that even among the murderers, there are very rare, but there were sometimes people with human feelings, and they behaved as human beings and not like beasts, all their comrades. Being with the swastika and all with the Nazi, the gray uniform with the swastika, with all this, to look at them was, one got frightened, you see. But these men, when he came back and they looked at the faces of the baby, he couldn't withheld from being behaved like human. And these two women and these two babies were the only one that left from that hospital, you see. And this we always remember it. So,
Abraham, you brought Esther, the artist. You brought Esther, the artist, to draw pictures of that hospital.
At that time, then they liquidated the ghetto, the small ghetto. They took 1,000 men from the ghetto and they liquidated to the ninth fort. So I didn't have any camera more in 42. It was in 41 in the beginning, I have to say. Prior to the actions on human beings, on life, they confiscated all the belongings. And the ghetto inmates were ordered under threat of death to give all their gold, their belongings, silver, furs, cameras, post stamps, collections, whatever valuable. And there were two stations in the near the Jewish committee, where the Jews had to bring all their belongings, and whoever they while making researches inside the houses, each other, and sometimes on the spot killing a man. And this brought about the people to run and get rid of their gold, to get rid of their silver, to get rid of their furs. You see, so we didn't have any cameras anymore. On the 4th, it was in August, the big confiscation, the total confiscation of whatever people had with them. Others digged it in the earth or somewhere, and they did, like Mac, I'll speak about him later. But the overwhelming majority, they left without a penny and without any valuable clothing or furs or whatever it was. So I didn't have a camera anymore, and I thought it is absolutely impossible that this event, that this side should not be somehow eternalized for posterity. But this already, the ghetto, small ghetto, was out of bounds. It was cut off from the ghetto. I'm sorry I didn't take along with me my documents. I would have shown you. So I went to Esther Luria, and I told her, Esther, you must draw what remained from the burned hospital. So she said, how can we come in? It is out of bounds. So I went to the commandant of the ghetto, and I told him that since it was October, in the Lithuanian October was already cold, even very cold. And we had no firewood in the ghetto. And what they used to give was just like the 100 grams of bread. That was the same story with the firewood. So I told them, in the small ghetto, some families left some firewood. Would he allow us to take out from these dwellings inside the small ghetto to take out the firewood? So I don't know whether I mentioned it yesterday, that the commandants of the ghetto, mostly they were elderly men, and they were not so, fanatic Nazis. So they had understanding for it, and he tells me, all right, I give you 2 hours to go into the. So I said, I need a wagon in order to find him. But I didn't need a wagon. I wanted that Esther. So he gave a wagon, and I took Esther and I went inside and we stood and we looked where would be the best position geographically for Esther Luria, so the painters, to stand and to paint it. But to paint from outside would be very dangerous, because they could have killed us on the spot, because all the time the sentries go around the fence. So I decided that we should go inside a building, and the adjacent building from the left side of the burned hospital was a 2-story house. So we went into this store, so and we were out on the 2nd floor, and Esther found a window from which she could have a good look on the what remained from the hospital. And she painted, and she drawn, and this is what she made it. But all of a sudden, when she paints, and I am on the outlook, all of a sudden I hear somebody went into the 1st floor. So I got frightened to death, because if they would found as Esther, it would be the finish for her. And I'm responsible. I'm the bad guy that brought her about it, you see, and I felt terrible, frightened to death. So I went closer to the staircase in order to see who is there, so that when they heard my foot steps, so they ran out. What happened? These were Lithuanians who came in just to steal and to take away what the Jews have left. So you see, this was also, this but had to, but to learn the moment of danger to death was always there, and she has done it, and of course I took some firewood from the house, from another house, and behind the firewood I put the drawings of Esther Luria, and we safe came back to the ghetto. There was another place where I took Esther Luria. I don't know, I think I mentioned to you that there was the massacre of the Lithuanians in Slobodka. This is the very suburb where later was the ghetto. That on the very beginning, at the night of June 25th to the 26th, the Lithuanians massacred 1,000 Jews in the Slobodka suburb. They just went from street to street, and one of the houses, I am always after to see what it looks like, but they closed up the area and nobody could go in. And the houses, after they have been looted, they closed up with wooden blocks and plywood, so you couldn't go inside the house because it was locked from behind. Anyhow, I went in with Esther, and yes, there was one house that I knew was a Zionist leader. He was the director of the Keren Kayemet in Lithuania. Yatkunsky was his name, a famous veteran Zionist. His wife was a dentist. And I wanted to know what happened to him. So I took Esther Louis again. And, I'm a sportsman, so for me to go here or there, it was not such a big problem. But for Esther Louis, it was not easy. So first of all, I had to take off some wooden, how do you call it, they closed the doors.
The panels.
Panels, yes, panels, broader panels. But they were only with nails, not very steady, not very strong, so I could easily take it off, you see, and we squeezed. First of all, I went in, and then I made a broader, so Esther Louis could go in, and then I took it again, so from the outside it was as it was before we climbed in. And we climbed in the house. What we have seen was a terrible, terrible thing. There were 3 rooms. In one room was the head of Yatkunsky, and his body was on the earth. It was blood on the walls. All the feathers from the beds, and it was full and also with blood, the feathers from the kittens and from the coaches and so on. It was just terrible to look at it. And then the second room was the dentist's. His wife was a dentist, and there was the dentist special equipment and the stool. And their wife was laid on the stool of the dentist and dead. When she painted it, the one room of the Yatkunsky house, and we have it in her album.
What was your reaction when you saw this?
It was terrible. It was just terrible, but you had no way out. You had to So until Esther Luria, I had to calm her down and to calm myself down, first of all. But I brought her in, I'm responsible for her, and she said, and she painted it, and she painted it, and she cried, and she raped, and then she painted and cried again, and this was a terrible thing. Look, there was in the yeshiva where people that were, I have a photo, one of my photos, of a yeshiva man on his pult, on his Gemara, on the Gemara book, and with his talus on himself, he reigned, so killed. So he remained on it. So this was one of the paintings, and there were many other paintings like that I went on in order to produce visual evidence to what I have written, because nobody would. I said to myself, and I told it to myself, who will believe what I am writing? It is out of human understanding, and it is out of what any community in the world could think of. Barbarism is not the right word for it. But I was lucky enough that Esther Luria and Joseph Schlesinger, and then there was another on the 11th of January 1942, the German Gestapo ordered to the one area of the ghetto, which is the Democrato area, they should vacate their dwellings within 4 hours. And whoever will be found in a dwelling in this area after it expires the 4 hours, he will be shot on the spot without any clarifications. And whatever will be remain of their belongings would be confiscated. They said, the Gestapo said, that they need the area and these dwellings to settle the Jews who are to come at this very day from Germany and from Austria. 5,000 Jews. That area lived only 3,000. But they squeezed it. So when we heard, we took it for granted that, first of all, 5,000 Jews are coming to the ghetto. And Dr. Elke, the head of the Jewish Council, said, we have to meet them as brothers, give them the feeling they are coming to brothers. So he ordered that the women should prepare hot coffee for them. It was a terrible cold. In January was the 30 Celsius below 30, below the most hard winter in the ghetto was in 1942. Dr. Elkes himself stood all the day from the beginning. Whenever we got word of that 5,000 are to come in the ghetto, he stood at the main gate with several people and with women who were ready to offer them coffee. He thought very much. He says, I can understand the feeling that these people are taken out from the houses, from the countries, and they don't know where they're being brought. At least give them a feeling when they will have to cross the gate behind barbed wires. They should know that they're coming with brothers. So those inmates from the area to be vacated in 4 hours didn't have any transportation. They were not allowed to use transportation of horses or wagons. So they dragged, in the hands, bundles on the shoulders, some home utensils like for children to bathe. It was used to drag it and on the snow. You understand? I saw the picture of all the people frightened to death to be in time, not to remain there after the war. It was just, I said, this scene I must put on a drawing. And then I didn't find a Luria. So I ran to, there was the youngest painter in the ghetto, it was Schmidt, Joseph Schmidt, but we called him Nolik, a nickname, yes, Nolik. And when I came to Nolik's home, I found him. I was the happiest man at home. He said, Nolik, come quick, take some some pencils with you and paper. We have to paint this. We have to rush to the Democrato area, paint the exile of the expulsion. And when he did, he was not conscious of the urgency. Every minute counts. Let's say not minute, but every hour counts. And he slowly, I said, Nolik, quick, have no time, I didn't tell nothing. So he took an overcoat, of course, it was very cold, and took some paper and some, and in addition to the pen and pencil, he took color paints. So I said, what for does he need these color paints? But he didn't listen to me at all, and he took everything, put under his overcoat, and we just running. It was far away from me. It was on the other side of the ghetto. Running, we came to the site, and there I had to find a place where he could stand and make his paintings that should not be seen by the Germans, not even before Jews. You understand? And he stood in a certain place which he found a place thought for him suitable, and I stood on the outlook, and then I called for 2 or 4 undergrounds. Everybody went to this area to help them, take out, to help them. Everybody tried to help them. So yes, they took 2 of my known members of the underground and said, you just cover that his body, knowing that nobody should see him, you see, and I stood on the alert, and they painted, and they painted, and they painted, and I told him, no, look, quick, finish, have no time more. Every minute can come a Gestapo, and then it will finish, not only for your painting, but they finish then to you and to me. But he didn't give in. And they painted, and they painted, and this is now one of the most characteristic paintings of the Holocaust in Lithuania. It is in my book with color painting. So this was Nolik, and this was the liquidation of that quarter. The Jews came from Germany, but they were sent straight to the Nine Fortress and were killed the very same day. And the area was cut off from the ghetto.
And the three.
Pardon?
And the 3,000 that were moved, where did they go?
No, they didn't. They cut off from the ghetto. They had to squeeze in the remaining part of the ghetto. You understand? And the intensity was even higher and more painful than it was, because 3,000 had to squeeze in any way 10 dwellings of the ghetto.
How did you learn that the 5,000 were taken to the fort and just killed?
We've seen them. You see, Dr. Elkes at the gate was waiting for their coming. And all day, Dr. Elkes didn't drink even not cold water. He was in such a tense, waiting, expecting, and they didn't come, and they didn't come. In the afternoon, they were brought, and you know, the way to the Ninth Fortress comes along, say, half a kilometer, half a mile from the ghetto fence. Up on the hill it goes, and you can see, everybody in the ghetto could see it. And we saw that there came these 5,000 men. And then, how did we know? As I told you, in the Gestapo building worked a group of Jewish inmates from the ghetto in cleaning, in dyeing, in the cleaning the laboratories, in haircuts and all kinds of. So they, when they came back, they came the next morning to work. They could see many suitcases and bundles with names from Berlin, from Frankfurt, the name of the Jewish, you know, the Gestapo they loaded their belongings that they brought, you see, and they threw away the suitcases and the bundles, and you could see the names and addresses of the people who were brought in. So there was no out of doubt that these were the 5,000 who were killed in the very same day on the Ninth Fortress.
So what the Gestapo did is they took their things. They took things that they wanted.
Always they take, first of all, they take off the rings, the gold, and they took out the valuables, and they put them in their pockets. They don't bring it to the Gestapo, you understand? But they brought were the suitcases on the trucks, you understand? So we had always certain signs that our workers in that building used to work. And this was also one day in the ghetto. Unexpected. You never knew what the next day will bring you. There is a very nice poetry, Russian language. What does you, the day of tomorrow, bring upon us? Что нам день грядущий ожидает? What expect us? What brings to us the next day? Will it be a day of sorrow, of pain, or will it bring to us a new hope, a new joy? It is a very, very nice poet from a very famous Russian poet. We don't like the Soviets, but we like very much the poetry and the language and the literature. I'm telling you, I lived in Lithuania, was under the Russian Tsars, and I studied law, the Russian law, not the Bolshevik law. Come back to the ghetto.
So with that, I mean, you never knew what the next day would bring. How did people keep their spirits to go on?
So you know there were
their survival.
there were various kinds of reactions. There were people in the ghetto that they thought, maybe this is the last day, so why not eat? Why not drink? The people who manage to bring in, to smuggle in, we call them Schleichhandel, the smugglers of the gate, or the smugglers of the fence. You see, some handler in Yiddish, some handler, and smugglers, when they used to turned it into a trade, and they used to make big money. They even got to eat meat and butter and eggs to the food. Said, let's eat. Tomorrow we will not. We will not. Even on the eve of the 28th of October, people were most of the people were in tension and didn't know what is going to happen tomorrow. Others thought this is the last day. So they used to concentrate in their thoughts, in their minds. Others took out everything that they had and said they'll eat up everything, not to leave for the Germans the next day anything. You see, the reaction, look, it's 30,000 people. It is not you don't think by order, you don't act as somebody would expect you to act, everyone in his own way, you understand. And so there was a very, very thin group of people who ate even meat, even butter, even eggs, a very thin. Those were the smugglers. But they, of course, risked their life. Some of them were killed. You know, you can make a descent once, twice, but the third time a bullet comes and finishes you. You understand? For instance, Dr. Elkes and all those, he was close to starvation. Although it was very, again and again, offered by the smugglers, we'll bring you butter, we'll bring you that. He never accepted, not a piece of bread. He used to share with me my piece of bread, you see, or offer me his piece of bread, but he would never have any connections with smugglers, which we thought it's the underground, it's what we are trying to fight, just to keep the standard of human behavior, of Jewish heritage, to keep alive, even under these terrible circumstances of the ghetto. And this is only thanks to Dr. Elkes and to those leaders who were known as community leaders before the war. And they were elected, and this was the difference, the big difference between the ghetto of Kovno leadership and the leadership in another ghettos.
Avraham, let me ask you quickly, we had gone over to another story, and I wanted to ask you what was done with the children who were under 8 years old. What did they do? Were they educated? Were there schools in the ghetto that were kept underground?
Yes. It's a very good question. From the very beginning, we didn't have to eat. We didn't have an hospital. But we started immediately with schools. We had wonderful educators, teachers, everything in Hebrew, of course. Not only did we have schools, Hebrew schools were taught reading and writing, arithmetic, geography, but we had also a special school of artisans, and in the ghetto was an engineer, agronome, Oleski, who was the head of the Hort schools in Lithuania, which is a famous worldwide Jewish artisan schools. And he was heading the artisan schools in the ghetto. And also, but we had to close up the schools in the winter because of lack of firewood. Because the lack of firewood. The next time, we had to close by order of the Gestapo, because it's a luxury. Jews, in their mind, the final solution, what do you need schools? Tomorrow there will not be, let them go to do, let them work, these teachers, let them go to work. the educators let them go to work. But even after they restricted to half and then liquidated, in order to liquidate the schools, we had it in clandestine. Had it in clandestine.
How did you do that?
Yes. So first of all, we said we need to train youngsters as artisans. That is so much needed for the German war effort. So this is they understood. So it was not a school, but it was a course for preparing of artisans. But it wasn't for all things and purposes. It was a school. Yes. Second, we did it just in the underground. You see, in the evenings and so, and private groups, teachers volunteered. You understand? It was a very hard task, but we had the head of the cultural department in the ghetto was Dr. Shapiro, Chaim Nachman Shapiro, who was a lecturer, senior lecturer at the university on Semitic languages and Semitic literature. You see, when all Jews were going into the ghetto, took along with them their bundles, whatever they were allowed. They were not allowed to take everything what they had, but some belonged. He came to the committee for the transfer of Jews and asked to transfer to the ghetto is a newly edited, published book, the history of Hebrew literature, in 2,200 pages, a book. You can imagine where did we have this place to keep them in the ghetto or to store them. But this is what he was very excited about it, that they should, it was one of the outstanding monumental work, the history of the modern Hebrew literature. And he was the head of the cultural department, and we had also for the children, you say, we try to keep for them the holidays. Children should know.
Hold on one second. Do we have tape? I was given a 2-minute cue. Okay. Tell me about the holidays.
So first of all, there was kindergarten. One day comes to me, there was a teacher of the kindergarten, a very well-known Mrs. Warszawski, Segal. She was in the kindergarten before the war, and in the ghetto she volunteered to hold the kindergarten, of course in clandestine, very, very clandestine. So Shulamit, the daughter of my wife, my present wife, she went also to the kindergarten, and one day Mrs. Warszawski comes to me and says, Golub, we must arrange for the children, for the poor children, some joy. It's Purim, it's going to be Purim, and we have to make some festivity on the Purim. And for that purpose, I need colored paper, because they have to colored paper. So the way she asked me, I couldn't say no. But where can you get it? I hardly got the paper needed for the secretariat for the Jewish offices, community offices, and the departments. So I used to go to the city and make an order with the civil authorities, German civil authorities, the Stadtkommissar. There was a form that filled out, and I put in there colored paper, red, yellow, and so when I came, it presented this Antrag. It calls Antrag. It is an order, a formal order. and the quantities. So what do you need the colored papers for? So I told him, what do you mean? We need for to put the brigades when they go out to cities, they should know this is yellow. People, other people said they are analphabets, they don't know. So you have to put the yellow here and the red one there and green is there. To cut a long story short, he gave me half of the portion that I needed, but I was the happiest man to come back in the ghetto, and she kissed me when I gave her the paper, you see. And then they played, you know, the famous play of Achashverosh and Esther Amalka, and Shulamit was elected to be the Esther Amalka. She played Esther Amalka. The only hall where we could have the Purim festivities, a hall, was at the former yeshiva that was empty, you see. So at that former yeshiva there was the festivities, and the mothers, mostly widows, could see their children on the stage, you know, dressed in the Purim clothes there. Everyone could find a little shmate, you know, to have their child. And they wept and in tears, and they listened to the songs and to the play. And nevertheless, the Dr. Elkes and mainly Dr. Shapiro, the head of the cultural department, introduced what does it mean Purim what is the symbol, the symbolic meaning of Purim for nowadays, the situation in the ghetto, and that it was an Haman, and Hitler is nothing else but a new Haman, and we have to hope that his end will be as the end of Haman in those days. And so it was a symbolic. It was a very, very moving. We were full of joy of the children, but the tears was even more moving. You see, this was the festival of Purim.
The tears of the mother?
Of the mothers, and not only of the mothers. Not only of the mothers. I was very much close to Shulamit because of Nina. We started then the touches and tried to help her to get some firewood for her. I told you yesterday that I brought her the first package from the nurse. You see, so, and then we had also for the adults, for instance, Hanukkah or Pesach. We arranged, for instance, a third Pesach, a third Seder. Usually we have two Seders for the Pesach, but we arranged a third Seder for the Zionist underground, mainly for the youth, of course. And then Dr. Shapiro, I can remember the day, he had an argument with God. He said, you know, prayers, there is Leshono Abo B'Yerushalayim. We cannot wait Leshono Abo. We must be Leshono Azod B'Yerushalayim. And we don't see eye to eye with God. Where is he? And he repeated this, the Bialik, the Hira Reiga, the famous after the pogrom in Kishinev, who wrote, if there is a God, and these paths and these places are unknown to us, so he should appear immediately and take revenge and avoid pogroms from Jews, innocent Jews. They were killed only because they were Jews. But if it doesn't appear, so he should be forsaken forever. It is very strong words, you see. And this was the feelings and I also spoke, of course, of the meaning of the Pesach, the Exodus from
Egypt.
from Egypt. It took 40 years, and I am most hopeful that the Exodus from the ghetto will not take as long, and every day, every month, every hour we should wait for a turn, either inside Germany, and there was the coup d'etat that was failed, and there were, we used to, as I told you yesterday,
Right. Go on.
the circle, the cultural circle that we used to hear what news was going on the military front. So I said, well, what we hear from time to time from the front is most encouraging, and we should not lose hope, and we should keep together and aid each one, mainly the widows and the orphans of our brother and fraternities, from the fraternities and so on. We used every possible occasion to encourage the people, to try to make stronger their understanding of the situation from the point of view of our past, that we had so many pogroms and so many hardships in various areas, the Inquisition in Spain and then in Russia and so on. This helped, no problem about it. But this was not only the gathering, the public gatherings that we tried to arrange, but in private talks, day in, day out. The widows used to come to me.
Okay, hold on one second, Abraham. I'm sorry. They're just changing tapes now. So
Yeah,
we're going to
good.
pick up from where you are.
Good.